Okay, hello. This is my Wrestle Kingdom review for January the 4th, 2025. Um, good show overall. Very good main event between Zack Sabre Jr. and Shota Umino. Rest of the card was solid. Some One very disappointing match in the semi-main event between Naito and Hiromu Takahashi. Other than that, all the matches were decent, except for the Doki and El Desperado match, which unfortunately ended in an arm injury to Doki. But I'll get into that when I get to it. Yeah, just overall, much better than last year, I thought, because I was not enthralled by the Naito Sonada main event and the semi main event, as we will get to, as I mentioned, was quite disappointing in my estimation. But yeah, we'll start at the top. We'll start with the pre-show. I didn't see right at the start because it was the pre-show, and it was New Japan Rambo once again, the most important match in all of wrestling. And there was a few names in this, a few names that I thought should have potentially won over the eventual winner. Um, it was, what can I say? It was New Japan Rambo. It was a bullshit battle royal that nobody cares about, just to get everybody a payday, I guess, on Wrestle Kingdom, sort of how the WWE does with battle royals and ladder matches at WrestleMania. And AEW does it with its casino, whatever the fuck, stuff like that. You know, silly little opener, a few alright spots in there. Josh Barnett was in there, Tori Yano was in there, Bolton Oleg was in there, Ishii, Hiroki Goto, Great Okan, Taichi Sanada was in there as well, who was my pick when I saw him enter the match, being the champion from last year, defending the title in the main event of the Tokyo Dome, to this year. They even made the point on commentary. He's in the opener on the pre-show. That to me was very strange that they did not have him go over to challenge either potentially Shota Umino or Zack Sabre Jr. in the future for the title. But that is what it is. It came down to Great-O-Khan and Hiroki Goto. Hiroki Goto went over in the New Japan Rambo. That's all you need to hear about that. So he gets a title shot down the line, I believe, for the world title. So I suppose the match had some importance, but let's be real. Goto is not winning that belt. Moving on. The next match was the four-way ladder match. It was TMDK, Yota, what's his name? Fucking forget how to say his damn name. Let me look it up. 1 second. Un momento. Wrestle Kingdom. I'm very ill prepared, as you can tell. Kingdom 2025. Let's have a look. Matches. Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles, easy for me to say, versus Kevin Knight and Kushida, who are the champions, versus Catch 22, TJP and Francesco Akira of United Empire, versus Bullet Club War Dogs, Clark Connors and Driller Maloney. Fun little opener ladder match for the junior heavyweight tag titles. Just a few silly spots that I thought there was too much going on, but that's what you get in these matches these days. We're a long way from Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. Yeah, for better or for worse. Kushida hit a really strange looking back elbow, handspring back elbow, what he does. He hit that into the ladder while two people were on it to knock the ladder over, which I thought was just the stupidest fucking shit. When you could just push the ladder, he does a handspring back elbow and probably fucking fucked the back of his arms up, like his triceps up, but whatever. Yeah, that was very strange, I thought. Driller Maloney was outside on the floor and here. I'm not going to go blow by blow of all these moves and all these matches, by the way, because I'd be here for hours. I'd be here for as long as the show was, and it was a long show. Yeah, Driller Maloney missed not missed, but he had Kushida up for the Driller Killer, his finish, right? And he was on the outside, and there was a table like leaned up from the barricade, like at an angle, how you'd see it in the corner, in the ring. It was leaned like that, but over a barricade. And he's going to hit the Driller Killer on Kushida, but I don't know if he slipped or he just... It didn't look like... It looked like a hard thing to hit because of the angle at which they had laid the table out. But whatever, he could have just hit it on the floor or hit it in the ring, but he chose to try and hit it on this angled table. He missed the table and just hit it on the floor. But that's whatever. And Kushida got back up later in the match to do other shit, which I thought was a bit stupid, really, because he's just taken a pile driver on the floor, essentially, a powerbomb pile driver in the floor, which is essentially what the Driller Killer is. You have the man in the powerbomb position and hit him, powerbomb him down into a pile driver, and he hit that on the floor. And Kushida was back up standing, doing shit later in the match. But whatever. There was another stupid spot where this was even stupider than that. Eagles hit a 450 springboard onto a fucking ladder. He had somebody on it, but it was onto a fucking ladder. And this isn't the last of Eagles doing stupid shit in this match. Yeah, there was... Kevin Knight hit a big dive off the top of a ladder. That was the other big spot. And then there was a reverse DDT from... I can't remember who it was. Oh, TJP. TJP hit Robbie Eagles with a reverse DDT after he sprayed the red mist into the eyes because TJP is doing this Oswald gimmick, which is some Filipino folklore or something. I think he debuted it last year at Wrestle Kingdon, if I remember correctly, against the War Dogs in their junior tag team match. And he's not got the full mask like he had before. He's like half TJP, half Oswald now, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, he spit this red mist into Eagle's face and then dropped him down off the top of the ladder onto another ladder that had previously been set up between the rope and the ladder that they were standing on, and bent the ladder like in half, which was the... And these aren't wooden ladders, at least they didn't look it to me. They looked like shoe ladders, if you know what I'm saying. They were steel, and the steel fucking bent, right? Yeah, just Eagles, if he's walking tomorrow morning, then I'll be surprised. I mean, he was out in the main event for Zach's match, you know. He was walking and looked absolutely fine, which I thought was a bit silly. Like, I know, obviously, it's nice to have them out there for his big main event match in the Tokyo Dome, but you'd have thought maybe sell the injury, have him not be out there, have him be recovering in the back or whatever. Because, man, he took some fucking punishment in this. Eventually, though, Fujita and Eagles actually won after Fujita hit some sort of... Not hit, but he had some sort of submission. I forget who it was on the ladder. He had like his leg tied up in one of the legs. Not one of the legs, one of the rungs that you climb on the ladder, and his head like bent over, and he like reached with the other arm to grab the titles that were hanging above. You know, nice fun little opener. Some stupid spots in there that we didn't really need, like the Eagle stuff. But yeah, nice little match. TMDK the winners. Yeah, maybe perhaps a little foreshadowing for the win for a bit later on in the main event with Zach defending. Next match, IWGP Women's title. Was not a massive fan of this. No disrespect to either of these wrestlers, AZM or Azumi as they were calling her. I don't know the correct pronunciation, but they were calling her Azumi on commentary, but her name is just the letters AZM. I don't fucking know. But versus the champion Mayu Iwatani. Yeah, I just was not a fan of the style of match they were working. They opened up with the stupid forearm exchange that you see all the time. I know it's a staple of Japanese wrestling, but I fucking hate watching that. It's just back and forward, back and forward. I'll hit you, you hit me. I'll hit you, you hit me. And they just stand there letting each other do it to each other. Yeah, not a big fan of that. And they went at like 100 miles an hour doing everything that they were doing. I get it, they want to probably cram a lot into this match in the time that they have, because it didn't get the most time on the show. But at the same time, work a match that makes sense, because they hit AZM hit 2 flipping pile drivers, 1 Canadian destroyer, and I can't remember exactly what she did for the second one, but it was some sort of flipping maneuver into a pile driver. She hit 2 of those, and the champion Iwatani kicked out, which I thought was ridiculous. And Iwatani was back up on her feet within 20 seconds of receiving those 2 pile drivers. Don't understand it. To me, you should stay down. I could understand maybe. I could not. What's the word I'm looking for? I could believe it more if it's someone like a Rhea Ripley taking those moves, taking a pile driver and kicking out. You know, she's built to withstand that sort of punishment. You know, you look at her and you think, oh, that's believable, yeah. But, you know, these 2 women were not, they're not Rhea Ripley. There's no disrespect to them, but you take 2 pile drivers and you're up on your feet within 20 seconds. That's bullshit. That's not. That's see-through. You can see through that. If I get dropped on my head twice, I'm not going to be back up on my feet within 20 seconds doing moves to my opponent. Yeah. The champion hit a moonsault and a tombstone and then a moonsault. You know, I think that was the finish. I don't remember exactly. It was, you know, for the kind of people that like that match, then I'm sure they love this, but not my cup of tea. Moving on, next match on the show. 4-way NJPW television title between El Phantasmo, Jeff Cobb, Rennerita, and I'm not familiar with this man at all, to be honest with you. So I'm going to butcher his name. Raiho Oiwa of TMDK. This actually was my favourite match on the show until the main event. This was good, actually. Everyone was trying to win. You believed they were all trying to, you know, scramble within the, 20-minute time limit? Or 15-minute time limit? I think it's 20. They were all scrambling to try and win. Everything, you know, every man in this match looked like they were trying to win. Eventually, you know, what's his name? Narita used his pull-up boards in the match and tried to, you know, get an advantage with that, but Jado at one point pulled it out, and then he got it back, and whatever the fuck, Jeff Cobb eventually got it off of him and snapped it in half with his leg, which is not something that I would want to do, because I do not want to get a fucking massive-ass splinter from that shit in my leg, but Cobb, well, he's a madman, I guess. Yeah, he snapped it over his leg, and that was the end of the pull-up board. Eventually, Jeff Cobb hit the Tour of the Islands on, I believe it was, I can't remember who it was. It was either Narita or it was the other fella from DMTK. But it was broken up by El Phantasmo diving in with a swanton, which he timed perfectly for the referee's count. The referee didn't have to pull up or anything, which was good. It was really good. And then Phantasmo does a big dive to the outside onto the other man, and then gets back up to the top rope and hits his, you know, splash where he tucks his heels to his back. 1, 2, 3, new champion. And they made the point he's just overcome cancer on commentary. So, yeah, really, really great finish. Nice little match. I enjoyed this a lot. I think the right man went over because, you know, hell of a babyface win as well. You know, the finish was a babyface finish. It was, you know, executed very well by Phantasmo. Yeah, so good for him. Happy to hear he's doing better. Yeah. The next match was Tanahashi versus Evil in a lumberjack death match. Yeah, this was not bad. Just, you know, it's Tanahashi. He's retiring. This is the start of his 2025 retirement tour. You know, it was alright. Okay little match. Evil does this stupid spot in it, which he does in almost all of his matches, where he gives the referee his opponent's leg, and the referee stands there and holds it, so Evil can fucking kick his opponent while the referee is helping him I hate that spot so fucking much and would bash him over the head with a blunt object to tell him that this is absolutely stupid. But, I guess he's the wrestler and I'm not. Whatever. It doesn't make sense. Why is the referee cooperating with you by holding the foot rather than just putting it down and not. Why does he put his hands up in the first place to even hold the foot or the ankle or the leg? I don't fucking know. Yeah. He did that shit. There was one point where the referee took a bump and all the heels came in for some reason. Don't know how the babyface was neutralized. Don't remember. But absolutely pissed myself with this. They had Hiroshi Tanahashi down. They had him with his legs opened. He was on his back. He had his legs open. Dick Togo was on the second rope and got his hands and started clapping and motioning like he was going to do a big move. And he comes down with a karate chop to Tanahashi's cock. That's the move that Dick Togo hit on Tanahashi while the heels had taken over and the referee was down. They had him down, Tanahashi, and Dick Togo went to the middle rope and karate chopped him from the middle rope into the cock. I'm not making this up. Evil hit his finish on Tanahashi. Tana, after receiving the finish, counters into like a cradle roll up for the win. Tanahashi doesn't retire, doesn't lose his hair, because apparently that was a stipulation as well. Okay little match. Pissed myself with the cock chop. After the match, the heels got on top, and Shibata came in as a surprise in a hoodie, and the heels ran away from him for some reason, even though there was like 8 of the heels out there, all of House of Torture. But they were also terrified of Shibata because he's wearing a hoodie, I suppose. Yeah. They bailed out. Shibata gets on the mic and tells Tanahashi that, oh, you're not tired. You've been saying you're never tired. So if you're never tired, then face me tomorrow at Wrestle Dynasty. Tanahashi agrees and accepts the challenge. So we've got Tanahashi versus Shibata tomorrow on Wrestle Dynasty, which I'll enjoy a lot more than this, I'm sure, unless there's bullshit run-ins from Evil and House of Torture. Yeah, it was an alright match though. Nothing too insulting other than the evil leg thing, but it is what it is. Up next, we had Konosuke Takeshita versus Shingo Takagi, double title match. Konosuke Takeshita is the AEW International Champion, and Shingo Takagi is the Never Openweight Champion. This is one of the better matches on the show. Probably my third favourite match. The main event was my first, then the second favourite was the 4-way for the TV title, and this was my third favourite match. Yeah, they probably went a little bit too long, I thought. I didn't like some of the no-selling of some of the suplexes either, like Konosuke Takeshita would hit a German suplex on Shingo, and Shingo would be back up, like hitting Takeshita with another suplex of his own. And it's like, why have you not just sold the suplex from Takeshita, who wrote his graduate thesis, his dissertation, whatever you want to call it, on the German suplex? So surely it makes it more effective because he knows how to properly apply it, or whatever, in, kayfabe, in story. That should make sense, right? You should be selling that suplex because he applies it properly. I don't know. Yeah. Takagi, there was a point where Takagi didn't quite hit his Last of the Dragon finish properly. Konosuke, sort of his shoulder and almost his neck looked like it landed on Shingo's foot and his ankle as he slammed him down for his Last of the Dragon finish. Yeah, and there was a point where Konosuke hit a knee that just barely, maybe the wind hit Shingo on the face, but other than those two little spots, it was a good match, It was, the Never style match. You know what it is. If you've seen a Never openweight title match before, it was one of those hard-hitting, big juggernaut wrestler brawler matches, and it was good. Takeshita in the end won with Raging Fire. Um, yeah, so Takeshita faces Ishii tomorrow at Wrestle Dynasty. Callis was at ringside for this, by the way, but he didn't really do anything. He just sort of stood there the whole match and watched. He sort of clapped and shouted a few things now and then, but I don't know why they didn't have him go on to commentary or they didn't have him involved in the finish, but whatever. I don't know why you'd have him as a manager if he's not doing, getting involved. I don't know. Yeah, so Ishii versus Takeshita tomorrow for, I don't know if it's both titles or all the or one of the titles. We'll see. I imagine both, but whatever. After this, oh boy. Here's where we got to the injury. And this is, I should say it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it was stupidity, I believe, in my estimation. So it was Doki, the champion, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, versus El Desperado. And Doki, he came out with someone Nakamura. I guess Nakamura, the surname, is just like Smith in England, like John Smith. That's how common that surname is, I suppose, over there, because there's fucking everyone is Nakamura, or Tanahashi, or Takahashi, or whatever the fuck. Yeah, he came out with this guy. The crowd seemed to know who he was. I didn't have a fucking clue, and they said on commentary he's some sort of stage performer, and he was doing something to do with spirits, or whatever. He was dressed up in, all white, face painted white, big hair white thing. You can probably go look it up on Google or whatever, Doki entrance, Wrestle Kingdom, whatever, 2025, and you'll see what I mean. It's I don't know what the fuck this had to do with Doki or El Desperado or the match, but yeah, he came out with this big entrance and then it ended in a flop because, as I'd mentioned at the start, I believe, this match ended through referee stoppage due to an injury to Doki. So what happened was, and I was watching it and I had to go to the toilet and I was like, I don't really care about this match that much because I'm not invested in Doki, and I like Desperado, but I'm not that big of a fan of his, and I don't really give a shit about the junior heavyweight title right now. So I went to the toilet because I really needed a piss, and I come back and I see the match is over. And before I went, I had seen Doki was on the top rope, Desperado was on the outside, next to those blue metal barricades that they have that make all the loud noise when you bang people into them. And Doki, off the top rope, he dived, and I don't know what they were going for exactly, but he dived, and his legs were over Desperado's shoulder as he landed, and Desperado sort of almost, I don't know if he meant to, but he landed with Doki in a powerbomb position. Sort of like John Cena, Batista, SummerSlam 2008, if you've seen that, where Cena broke his neck. I thought at first, fucking hell, that's stupid. He's going to break in his neck or, spinal issues there somewhat from that landing, because that's fucking ridiculous onto those thin pads. Because it's fucking height when you're up there on the top of the post to the outside on the floor. It's fucking 15 feet. And he's landing, with a fucking bump to his back. But I come back from the toilet and I see the match is over. And I'm like, whoa, that went short, didn't it? And that was the last thing I'd seen, was that big bump to the outside from Doki, where I thought, this was fucking stupid, why did you do this? And lo and behold, I go back and I see Doki did this move and he landed with his, I believe it was his left arm, was outstretched by near his hip as he landed in this sort of powerbomb position. He landed with his left arm, which impacted the mat, and it bent, and it looked like it fucking snapped. Referee immediately, after going down and checking on him, rang for the bell. Match was over. El Desperado is the winner by referee stoppage, and new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. First of all, I hope it's nothing too serious, but I'd be surprised if it's not, because this looked like a fractured, at the very least, or broken arm. He looked like he snapped his fucking arm. And I could be mistaken, but it looked as if at his elbow joint, his arm had started to swell up immediately. Maybe a little. Yeah, it was. Yeah, very scary. I fought for the neck and the spine, but he'd actually fucked up his arm on the landing. Yeah, very, very scary. Hope Doki is alright. Hope he's not too badly injured. Um, yeah. And I never want to see anybody dive off the top rope like that ever again, because it was absolutely ridiculous. And you hear that so often, and people argue about it all the time. But when you see shit like this go wrong, you can't really dispute that it was a stupid idea to do in the first place. Anyway, new champion El Desperado by referee stoppage due to an injury to Doki. Okay, and after this we had David Finlay, the IWGP Global Heavyweight Champion, versus Yota Tsuji. This was pretty good as well. Not incredible, not great, but it was good, solid. For me, it was a little bit too much just two guys hitting moves on each other throughout the match. David Finlay came out with a minigun for some reason, because he's part of the Bullet Club, I guess, along with Gado. And I heard on commentary they mentioned something to do with Tekken. So I don't know if the minigun is something you do in Tekken, and Finlay has some sort of deal, or New Japan has some sort of cross-promotion deal with Tekken to advertise it by doing this at the Tokyo Dome. Whatever. Looked kind of silly, looked phony, didn't look like a real minigun. He pulled it up at the entrance ramp and motioned as if he was shooting with it, and the audio piped into the building going bang 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 bang, whatever. Yeah, like I said, just two guys trading big moves throughout. Finlay at one point put Yota Tsuji through a table on the outside. Then when he got back into the ring, he hit him with 3 Dominators. Bobby Lashley's old finish that he used to do. Finlay hit into Oblivion. Tsuji kicked out. Finlay hit Tsuji with not quite the overkill, but he lifted him slightly and hit a mini version of overkill after hitting a spear on him, which is Tsuji's finish, the Gene Blast. He hit Tsuji with the Gene Blast. Is what I mean to say. Words are hard. He kicked out of that. Tsuji did. Yota comes back with a couple of spears, and that's, that was it. That was the new champ. It sounds very, very naff the way I've put it out like that, but there wasn't really much to sort of critique other than that it was just two guys sort of hitting moves on each other. There wasn't really much to analyse here. Like I said, decent match, but just two guys doing the not Never style, because it's not the Never title. It was almost like a Never style match, though. You know what I mean? Just two brawler guys hitting each other with moves. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. I didn't really have much else to say about that, I'm afraid. That was it. I'd rather Finlay would have gone over, because I actually like what he's doing. I like the whole War Dogs gimmick thing. You believe that they're these fucking rabid animal men that are fucking just absolutely off the tit and don't give a shit what they're doing. Especially Gabe. Gabe is very believable in what he does, and it was a shame that he doesn't have a match on Wrestle Kingdon, which he himself actually sounded quite upset about. But, hopefully he'll have a very good showing against Kenny tomorrow. The next match after that, oh boy, semi-main event. Hiromu Takahashi versus Tetsuya Naito. And they were sort of trying to say on commentary that this is student versus teacher, or whatever, and they explained that Naito had saved Hiromu Takahashi from getting fired previously, which I did not know. I thought the commentary team did a very good job, actually, throughout the night, especially with these two matches, the semi-main event and the main event match, with giving context and laying out, for this epic battle to take place. One of the two matches that they did that for, it paid off, and it was an epic battle. But the other one, This fucking match was not. Um, yeah. It was a slower style of match early on, and it actually continued that way throughout, now I think about it. Um, Naito asked Hiromu for a fist bump, the LIJ fist bump where they put their arm in the air with the fist out. He asked Hiromu for that at the start of the match, but Hiromu sort of gave him a bit of a smile, turned around, turned his back to him, walked to the corner and declined it. Um, yeah. So Hiromu's sort of trying to step out of the shadow, I guess, is the story of the match they're trying to tell, which I don't mind that. Um, but the match itself just felt sort of flat. Naito went for a DDT at one point and got absolutely no impact whatsoever, and Hiromu turned it into a pin. I don't think that was intentional, from my view. I think Hiromu sort of just thought on the fly, oh, I can't really sell that, can I? Because there was no impact on this. Bit of sloppiness from Naito there, and I think that he's quite gone downhill a lot within the last few years, to be truthful with you. And that was evident here, and it's been evident in past matches. I think of one with Moxley back in the summer, I believe it was last year, for the IWGP Heavyweight title. I think the match where he actually won it back from Moxley, that he missed several things and just looked, not great. But anyway, back to this match. I've written all these notes, but it's not really worth going into. It was just, it was just slow. It was just sort of like the last match, guys just hitting moves on each other, but less exciting. Hiromu hit the time bomb. Naito kicks out. There was a nice little roll up at one point by Hiromu. That was sort of a creative looking roll up that I hadn't seen before. Hiromu hit the time bomb 2 for a 2 count. He hit Naito with Destino, his own move. Before that, Hiromu couldn't hit a second time bomb 2, and Naito countered and hit his own Destino onto Takahashi. A cocky cover only got him 2 count. Yeah. Naito teased at one point going for his old Stardust press when he was the Stardust Genius or whatever, but Hiromu Takahashi picked at the ankle while he was on the mat and stopped him from going up to the top rope. And Naito just picked Hiromu up and hit him with another Destino 1-2-3. That was the finish. Flat as a plate of piss, as Jim Cornette would say. Very, very flat finish. They were talking on commentary about how the clock's ticking for Naito and he might not have much time left. They talked about his knee injuries, his knee problems. They talked about he's got some sort of condition with his eyes where he had to have surgery on his right eye to improve the left one. I don't know how the fuck that makes any sense, but that's what he had apparently. And they said it was for this match. And if it was for this match, then I would be very, very, very upset that I had that surgery for such a shit match, because that's what this was. Very, very flat. Naito's still over with the crowd, as is Hiromu, but I don't know why. I don't know why Naito is. Hiromu I can see. I can see why they like him. He's out there, he's flamboyant, he's got these, he stands out with his wackiness and his colours and whatever, and the nonsense that he does. I don't mind that. But, Naito, what is there to get behind with this guy now? Just, his glory days are behind him, I'm afraid, and he is well past his expiration date in wrestling, I would say. Similar to Chris Jericho. Yeah. I think the wrong guy went over in this one, to be quite honest with you. You could have given Hiromu Takahashi a career-defining win with a win over the former world champion, his mentor, the leader of LIJ, all of those things, but you didn't. You gave Naito another win, which, quite frankly, he looked as if he should not have been in that ring, and I probably think he will look like that going forward from now on until he does eventually retire, whenever that may be. It was a poor match, disappointing match. With big build up. They said it was 15 years in the making, but with the finish as flat as that, it only exaggerated how poor the match was. Yeah, not probably the worst match on the show. I enjoyed the New Japan Rambo more than that, and that's saying something. Alright, moving onward then to the main event. Zack Sabre Jr., the champion, versus Shota Umino for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Very, very good match. Couple of things I didn't like, but I'm probably just, picking at nits. Very small things that I didn't like. Yeah, overall, very, very good match. This was a very long match as well. I believe they said 43 minutes 44 seconds was the final time on this, bell to bell, which is just behind the longest main event match in Tokyo Dome history, they said, which was Jay White versus Kota Ibushi a few years ago, which was 48 minutes something, so just shy of that. But yeah, it was. They held me throughout. I was, at points, I don't throw around the word captivated lightly, but at points I was captivated. I was invested in this, which is exactly what you want. You want people to believe. You want people to, buy into what you're selling them, and that was what they did with this. It was a terrific match. There was layers as well to it, which I very much liked. Not just with the physical stuff, the physical wrestling between the ropes, but the story of what's his name, Shota Umino claiming to be the ace already, which is something Zack has said, which is part of the reason why the fans are booing him and rejecting him, because he's verbalizing that. He said in an interview leading up to this match, which is probably very true. And with that being said, Zack was sort of trying to bring out what version of Shota, the best version of Shota, whatever Shota wants to be, not what he thinks people want him to be or people think he should be. He should be himself, is the message that Zack had said in that interview that I just mentioned, which is what Zack has done. You've got one guy who it seems is trying to please people and trying to please, as my cat jumps onto my desk and fucks off. Thank you, cat. Piss off. I'm trying to record this here, you little shit. Fucking hell, I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, you've got one guy in Zack Sabre Jr. who's always stuck to his guns. You believe he is who he is because he's the genuine article. He is this submission master, technical wrestler, arguably the best technical wrestler in the planet. Yeah, I can't think of anybody who's on the level that he is with the believability of his style. Yeah, I mean maybe Timothy Thatcher. That's about it, perhaps. There's probably others, but yeah. Yeah, Zack's someone who's very much stuck to that throughout his whole career, and we're trying to now figure out, not just us as fans, but the wrestlers themselves, as Zack says, he's trying to figure out who Shota Umino is. He's had this Moxley rub early on when he was a young lion. That shaped him somewhat to this shooter character. And he comes out, through the crowd and whatever, because that's what Moxley did. No, you should be who you want to be, Shota, not who somebody else has led you to be, or who anybody else thinks you should be. That's Zack's message that he's trying to get across. And I think we did start to see some of that, the real Shota, which we'll get to at one point during the match, when we get there. So Zack Sabre Jr., the champion, had the advantage early on through his technical prowess, a lot of chain wrestling early on, a lot of submission wrestling, and obviously throughout the whole match that continued, because that's the style that you'll get with Zack Sabre Jr. But Shota did get the better of him once or twice, with a couple of full Nelsons, which Zack struggled to escape and got a tiny bit frustrated, but eventually broke it by lifting his leg to release the pressure. Shota hit a forward slam on Zack and a basement drop kick to take back advantage from Zack. Shota, when he had Zack tangled up in the ropes and hit a DDT on him to the apron of the ring. Eventually, Shota hit, I believe it was 4 or 5 DDTs in this match, which was part of the story they were telling, was Shota was targeting that neck, targeting the head of the more leaner, slighter wrestler in Zack Sabre Jr. But yeah, the first of them came here. And then Zack Sabre Jr. Spilled onto the outside, onto the floor after this first DDT, and Shota continued to pile the pressure on, whipping him into the barricades a couple of times, which the fans started to boo for the first time in the match, Shota on, which, yeah, that he sort of acknowledged that a little bit and carried on. And he, despite the boos from the fans, he got Sabre Jr. draped over the barricade and hit him with a second DDT on from the guardrail onto the floor. Yeah, the boos carry on throughout the match, with Zack getting back into control for periods of time. For most of the match, really, Zack had control of it, but we had little pockets where Shota was in control through these DDTs and targeting the neck and the head of Sabre Jr. through these high impact moves. There was a spot, as I alluded to earlier, where we started to perhaps see the real Shota, glimpses of the real Shota, and who he needs to be to succeed, where Shota was stomping on Zack Sabre Jr., who was laying on the outside of the apron, and just kept stomping him, and Red Shoes, the referee, who was Shota's dad, of course, Red Shoes Uno, Shota was not listening to him, and as Red Shoes Uno had asked him to stop stomping on Zack as he was in the ropes, he was outside of the ring, and he had his arm hooked. Did the referee? He had Shota's arm hooked under his, and was telling him break, and Shota pushed his own dad off and fell down onto the floor. More boos for that. And he came back up again, did his dad, and grabbed him by the arm again, and Shota looked at him then at that point and continued stomping behind him onto Zack, which I thought was a really, really good spot for character-wise, for Shota. And we'll, I suppose, see more of this, him leaning more into this further down the line, perhaps even tomorrow in his match against Claudio Castagnoli. Yeah, Shota looked to be out a couple of times, though, throughout the match, with some submission wrestling from Zack. He at one point had him tied up, like, I don't know how you'd get out of it. He had both of his arms trapped behind him. Zack had both of Shota's arms trapped behind him, and his leg captured as well, and Shota's face was just pressed against the mat, and his eyes were closed, and he didn't seem to be moving. Yeah, great technical stuff from Zack. Just looking at my notes here. What else? Oh yeah, there was a point as well, sort of midway through the match, where Zack had Shota in a abdominal stretch after he was coming off the ropes. Just really simple, but really great stuff that I enjoy a lot seeing. Enjoy seeing a lot, I should say. Was Zack had him in this abdominal stretch, but he digs his elbow, the point of his elbow, and grinds it into your rib cage and the side of your belly, and he gets his knuckles as well and drives that into your rib cage. You know, those dirty little tricks, the black magic, as they call it, of the tutoring of Minoru Suzuki and others, which is obviously rubbed off on Zack. Love to see little wrinkles like that into people's offense. Yeah, at one point, Shota kicked out of a Zack driver, and I was, I shouldn't say I was surprised at that, because I think someone's kicked out of it before, but it's quite rare that anybody actually kicks out of the Zack driver. And Shota got Zack up onto the second and top rope, and Zack had been working on his ankle. Zack had been working on words, bloody hell, excuse me. Zack Sabre Jr. had been working on Shota Umino's ankle throughout the match at points when he realised that, I better start targeting this, because they had said on commentary that Shota had some sort of bad ankle injury. So Zack had went for that at one point, because he got to the point of, I need to start going for this injury, because Shota was actually putting up a bit of a fucking fight here. So yeah, Zack was on the top rope, sat on the top rope, and Shota went to climb, but he fell. this was planned. You know, he fell because of the ankle or the leg injury. He couldn't climb it. So Zack sort of looked at the crowd, smiled, grabbed him in a front guillotine while he was still sat on the top rope, and he was just hanging there, Shota. You know, looked as if he was out because his feet were dangling off the floor. And then Zack went to hit a Zack driver off the top rope after this guillotine. He was still sat there all this time. And then he couldn't get it. Shota countered, hooked him with a butterfly lock, and hit a big death ride off the top. At this point, I thought in my head, fucking hell, surely they're not actually going to have Shota go over here. Surely they're not going to have him win it off of this. But he couldn't capitalise on the cover. And that was the one moment where you've actually believed, you know, this guy, fucking hell, Shota could actually do it. Eventually, though, Zack did win it. He got him for another Zack driver in the middle of the ring. He sort of crossed the legs over, though, with this one. A slightly different variation on it. I don't know if he's done that before with someone. Yeah, very, very good match. Right winner. Right guy went over. Shota looked really great, though. Like I said, we saw a different sort of attitude, if you will, from him that I hadn't seen before, at least. He's sort of leaning into this heelish demeanour a little bit, and the boos that he's getting from the crowd. Best match on the show by a long, long way, and you'd expect that, being the main event spot. You know, there wasn't too much stiff competition, especially not from the semi-main event. I shouldn't say there wasn't too much stiff competition, because there was, you know, some really good stuff on here, you know, some good, solid stuff on here. Like I said, I think the four-way match was my favourite match other than the main event. And then probably the Never Openweight title and international title match between Takeshita and Shingo. Yeah, so Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ricochet tomorrow is presumably for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And after this match, Zack Sabre Jr. got onto the mic and said to Shota in Japanese that he wasn't quite the ace, was he? And he would be waiting for him down the line in the future for another crack at the title. And Zack Sabre Jr. wished everyone a Happy New Year. And that he would speak to us again tomorrow because he plans on beating Ricochet in the main event. Yeah, so good show, solid show, much, much better than last year, much better than Naito versus Sonata, which did not interest me whatsoever, did not hold my interest during the match either. An emotionally forgettable show from last year, to be honest with you, in my opinion. That might be controversial, that might be debatable, that might be, you know, people might get, how dare you say that about the Tokyo Dome from last year, blah, 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 but, you know, that's my opinion on it. Good show, though, this year. Looking forward to Wrestle Dynasty tomorrow. Will review it, I think, possibly, if I feel like it. This is my first review that I'm doing of anything. So we'll see how it goes. I do have work, like 12 hours after the show airs, so I might not get that review out for a little while. But yeah, I'll try to. Yeah, anyway, thanks for listening, anyone. Hope you enjoyed the show. Let me know what you think, etc., etc. All that bollocks. Yeah, TMDK. Zack Sabre Jr., the winner in the main event. That's Wrestle Kingdom 2025, January 4th.